Dear Richard, it is now November of 2020, and I wanted to make this recording so that I could express to you how I feel about you. And I'm also going to make a couple of statements about Pearl and about Maya. And I'm most certainly going to say something or a few things about Valerie, because though this is a recording to tell you how I feel about you, so we would not know each other, and we would not have been around each other for as many years as we have been if Valerie were not around, if she were not, um, you know, the center of our worlds. During the almost 20 years that you and I, Richard, have known each other, I feel that I have contributed enough to your life that in January 2020, I feel that I contributed enough to your life that when you found out I was homeless, you should have sprung into action on my behalf to help me not be homeless. You could have, because whether you allowed me to sleep on the couch or on the floor or whatever, you could have. And it would have disrupted your home, you know, having me there. But could and should are two different things. And I'm stating a fact that when you found out I was homeless, you could have sprung into action to make sure that I wasn't homeless. You could have. That's a fact. You didn't spring into action to make it so that I was not homeless. That's also a fact. You could have sprung into action. That's a fact. And you did not spring into action to make sure that I wasn't homeless. And that's also a fact. I'm not crying over the could and the didn't right now. I already cried to you about that earlier this year, because the could and the didn't made me upset and sad. My statement is this: during the almost 20 years that we've known each other, I feel that I have contributed enough to your life that when you knew I was homeless, you should have sprung into action on my behalf to help me not be homeless. That statement is how I feel. These are my feelings. And Pearl said something to me. She said that you cannot legislate feelings. It's arguable that you could. I feel it's a fact, so I don't feel it's arguable. But when a person doesn't feel like the words that are coming out of somebody's mouth is not accurate to them, we will argue. So everything to a degree is arguable, which is why I wrote these words the way that I wrote them, and which is why I'm saying them in this recording the way that I'm saying them. You could have sprung into action to help me not be homeless. To me, that's a fact. To you, there might be factors that make what I'm saying, uh, where you can debate that. And, up until this point, things that you've said, you didn't say that you didn't say anything that let me know that you could not have, you know, let me sleep there for several nights or a night here, a night there. Nothing you've said in all of our communication. And the fact that you didn't, that's undisputed. You did not say anything to me all year that says, well, I did allow you to come over and spend the night, because you didn't. So those two things, in my mind, they're fact. So I'm talking about you should. Now I'm getting into my feelings, which, as Pearl said, feelings can't be legislated. Now, I do legislate my feelings. But Pearl is a woman, mother of Valerie, and I'm a man. And the way that I'm wired, I do know how to legislate my feelings. And I know how to give my feelings space to be while I do what I have to do. For instance, I did not feel like living in Toma. I hate living in Toma. I did not want for my children to go to Toma schools. I did not want the entire family, Valerie's tribe, as I call you guys. I call the Valerie's tribe. I call you, Richard, Lysandra, and Lysandra's children, you and your child, and Valerie's mother and her. Under Valerie's leadership, I call you all Val's tribe. When I met Val's tribe, there were certain signals to let me know that I should not have been involved. I should not have married Valerie. There are signals, little things that have popped up that popped up in the first 3 years of us being in a relationship before we got married. One of those things is how you treated me with the vehicle. Remember? Van and the little Oldsmobile. If you remember those, that's a big red flag. Not only because you, in my opinion, were irresponsible, Because, you know, we can always get another vehicle. And there are things that have happened subsequently that, in my mind, balances that out. So the two times that you allowed me to use your vehicles, once when I was living on the west side of Chicago, and the other time while back and forth to Toro, that I'm not saying that both of those are not equal, or those are not they're separate things. But when in my mind as a man, when I think about what happened with the van and the Oldsmobile, and I blame you for what happened to those vehicles, but they weren't in my possession anymore because I had given them to you. So how things went down with that made me upset and hurt. But if there was a thing in your life and in our relationship where you made up for it, not that you had to make up for it, because what's done is done. But in my mind, in terms of my feelings about you, and again, right now I'm in my feelings, and you can't legislate feelings, according to Pearl. So how I deal with my feelings is how I deal with them. So in my mind, when you did what you did with the van and the Oldsmobile, you more than made up for it in my mind with allowing me to use your van to go back and forth to Toro. And when you allowed me to use your vehicle during the time that we were on the west side, at least I was living on the west side of Chicago with the family, and I was, it was the vehicle was it was already on it was kind of on its last leg a little bit, and you allowed me to use it, and that was very appreciated because I needed the vehicle at the time. I needed it, and so I definitely appreciate that. And I'm not in this recording going to list all of the Richard positive points. That may be for another time. Right now, that example, it in my mind, that shows my fairness. It may not. If you look at what I just said and you don't find that that is fair in your mind, it's okay. Because like Pearl said, you can't legislate feelings. And right now, I'm expressing to you my feelings. And my feelings is that during the almost 20 years that we've known each other, I feel that I've contributed enough to your life that when you knew I was homeless, you should have sprung into action on my behalf to help me not be homeless. And a lecture, nobody needs a lecture. I would not be, uh, if you if you listen to the first few minutes of this and decide I'm not listening to this SHIT, and you never listened to it, you didn't hear me all the way out, and you looked at this as, oh, Matt's ranting, whatever. I personally don't, I wouldn't be upset that you didn't hear it. I wouldn't be. What I'm doing is what I felt on my heart that God wanted me to do, which was give you a recording that definitively said this. During the almost 20 years that we've known each other, I feel that I've contributed enough to your life that when you knew I was homeless, you should have sprung into action on my behalf to help me not be homeless. You, Richard, can go back into your life and you can think about the moments where I've been there for you. Richard, I'm younger than you. In theory, you should have been more of a help to me than I was to you. In theory. Just like with Jalen, though there are times that Jalen has helped me. The relationship between me and Jalen is, if somebody's going to be giving help to somebody, it's me to him. If one of us is going to see the other one in some sort of need and try to fulfill that need, it's me to him. I'm the older one. I'm the elder. I forgot how much older you are than me, Richard. Partially because your age did not matter to me. When I saw how you have conducted yourself over the past nearly 20 years of my life, my assessment, I would articulate some good points. And I've told you throughout every time, I would say 90% of the things that you've heard me compliment you on or say good to you about, you've heard at least 90% of them already, meaning that you know it. I've told you that all of my videos, when I look at my video footage, that I can't find any video footage up until the point that I interacted with you and told you this. I can't find any video footage from that season that I told you this all the way back to when I met you or when you met me. No one has been a better cameraman than you. And not that your job or role was to be a cameraman. If the only thing that we had as our relationship was you held the camera for me and you and I didn't have any of the other elements of our relationship, then that would be the dominating memory. Best cameraman I've ever had in my life, Richard. But that's not the dominating memory. In terms of memories where it makes me remember you in what some people would call a negative light, but I would say an accurate light. Okay? You got what happened with the two vehicles, but again, like I said, it's outweighed by, so I almost don't need to ever mention that again in my mind. So I won't mention it again. To you. I might mention it to somebody else. But it's just a story of my life. It's not, I'm not trying to, I'm not going to be trying to make you look bad in front of people that, that I'll tell you how I feel. I don't need to talk about it to anybody else in a way that is, like gossiping against you or talking about you behind your back in a way where you're going to meet these people and they're like, oh, Richard, When I talk to my father, and he remembers you and I remember you, the discussions that we might have had about you. You know, if you were, if you had the intestinal fortitude to sit in the room with my father and me talking to you about life and talking about whatever, you might not be comfortable in that discussion, especially if we got on the topic of, you know, things that have happened over the years. That's what I mean. You know, if it's a story, I'm, you know, talking to my father is different from talking to, you know, anybody else. I don't talk to anybody that you know, as far as I know. Okay. But if I had to discuss stories, to me, um, the number one story was the dog doo-doo story, meaning that I asked you multiple times that India, that would not be a, not, he would not, or she, whatever, would not doo-doo on the grass in my yard. And you blew me off so many times that it's disheartening. It it was such a level of disrespect that came from you to me that I am just now able to look at it as disrespect. And I've never walked around saying, you need to respect me, you need to respect me, you need to respect. Valerie may feel that way, that that's what I do. She may feel that way. But like Pearl said, you can't legislate feelings. So if she feels that way, then in her mind, that's the way it is. If I feel that the way you treated me with the poop, with dog poop, was disrespectful to me, then that's just how I feel. There is no apology that would ever cause that story to ever change. It's forever written in in my history book. That is one of the stories in the chronicles of my life. And if anybody reads the chronicles of my life, if anybody cares to read such a boring thing, one story that's going to leap off the pages is Richard and his dog poop. That might not be the name of the story, but you know how it goes because you lived it. To me, that was the number one story. And because when all of that dog poop story, when it came to an end, when there was no more dog poop to be stepped in by me, when there was no more dog poop for me to look at in the backyard and be sad about, when it was all over with, and Valerie said to me, Vera is in uh, she's in Mayo Clinic, or you know, I don't remember every single detail of what was said, but I do remember that I was in a truck by myself with the landlord, with your landlord Paul, unloading your belongings into that home without you. I remember cutting your grass. This is when you first moved to Toma. I remember cutting your grass while you were not there to cut your grass because you were dealing with your wife. And if I knew that if I had forward thinking, so if in 2014, when you guys first moved to Toma, and I believe that was it, 2014, it was 2013, 14, whatever. I know 2013 is when we moved to Camp Douglas. Me, Valerie, Pearl, and Maya was in Camp Douglas during that time. Maya was there, and my son. Maya is your daughter. She's living with us. I'm in a truck driving your stuff and moving your stuff into your place. You're caring for your wife. Now, if I had known in 2013 and 2014 that when I was homeless in January 2020, and that you would not spring into action, if I knew that you could have sprung into action on my behalf and did not help me to not be homeless, and that you didn't, which is a fact now, if I knew that it was going to be a fact that when I was homeless, you could have, but you didn't help me, I would not have helped you move your stuff. I would not have brought your stuff to Toma. And I would not have allowed your daughter to stay with us. I don't care how great the need is for your daughter to have stayed with us, for Maya to stay with us. I don't care how great the need is for your stuff to be moved from Chicago to Toma. I don't, that need was great for you. If I knew that January 2020, February 2020, you would not be compelled to act on my behalf to make sure I wasn't homeless, the same way that I was compelled to act on your behalf to make sure that your stuff got safely into your place and to make sure that your daughter was able to stay with us, I wouldn't have done it. I would have done it. I would not have done it. I would not have done it. You would have to deal with that by yourself. I dealt with my homelessness by myself. I didn't deal with it with you. Your problem, you knew. Once you heard, think about this. Once you heard, hey, Uncle Matt, you didn't even have to listen to the rest of it. Hey, Matt is gonna, you don't even, I don't remember every detail of the stuff that I did, but I know that I helped out. And again, you can sit with Valerie and you can get her to tell you, well, Matt didn't do this and Matt did that and Matt didn't do this and Matt did that. That's fine. Like Pearl said, you can't legislate feelings. If she feels differently than how I feel, you can't legislate feelings. So she's right in her own eyes, and that's fine. Just like I'm right in my own eyes. I'm just expressing it to you because I'm man enough to tell you. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that you know how I feel, because one of the problems is I don't know if I would call it a problem. It, it would be a problem for me, but it's not a problem for you. And that is, if I were in your shoes, like if my brain was inside your brain for a year or two or three, and I were able to assess things that have happened regarding my brother-in-law Matt, I probably would do a couple things to solve it. Because an apology doesn't solve what happened in January in my mind. You didn't do anything to me. It's just that you felt no unction to help me in what might have been the worst situation that I've been in. Looking back on it now, in November of 2020, I can look back at that situation and I say, thank God. But the thank God is not that I'm all right. Because I knew I was going to be all right. I knew it. And again, it's debatable if, from somebody else's opinion, that's not all right. That's debatable, right? Can't legislate somebody else's feelings about me. But I know that if I were in your shoes or in your head, I would have done something to fix this whole thing. In the past, I have done things to fix and resolve issues with people that I've had issues with. And not everything goes according to my plan. So there's, I have my list of people that I feel that I've wronged or feel that I wronged them. And depending on how I feel about it, because I could be wrong, I presented the whole list to God so that He can let me know what I can do and let me know if, from His viewpoint, I was right. Because that's another element in this whole thing. I'm telling you my feelings, but you know, and I know that for the duration of our 20-year of being in-laws, you know that I'm a person that at least speaketh about faith stuff. Whether anybody believes that I'm truly a Christian or not, or whatever people believe, you at least know that if you go to my website, m3dots.com, and you tap on any song, you ain't gonna hear no you ain't gonna hear what you hear on the radio in terms of secular rap. You're gonna hear me talking about my faith in whatever perspective of the song that I'm sharing, and that's not gonna change. I am what I am. That's the best thing that I do. I don't really do that much other stuff well. The number one thing that I do well is write lyrics. And because of that, some of the expectations of me over the years have been actually unrealistic. It's unrealistic for anyone to think that I could sleep in my car for a long time. It's unrealistic. Now, mind you, I've done it. I've done it. I did it before me and Valerie got married. I've slept in my car while me and Valerie have been married. So, sleeping in my car is not a big deal. It's a big deal, but it's not. The children, when I drive, they have slept in the car. I'm driving for 4.5 hours. Naomi will fall asleep. Nathan will fall asleep. It's not a crime to sleep in the car because they do it. Might be against an ordinance or two, depending on where you are. But sometimes the situation requires you to pull over and fall asleep. And if you've driven as much as I have over the years, the car or the vehicle is comfortable enough. But in the dead of winter, it was January, Richard. January. You got up and you went to work every day, whatever those days were, and you went back home and you sat down and watched TV. And then you went to sleep in your place, got up, you did your routine. And all the while knowing, whether it was in the front of your mind or the back of your mind or not in your mind, you know that I was homeless. And you did not feel compelled to do anything about it. Anything that was going to make it so that I was comfortable in your place. Now, when your daughter needed a place to stay, the only thing I had to do was just, make space, not make the place uncomfortable. I didn't walk around the house like, dang, Maya, how long you gonna be living here? I never did that. I never made your daughter feel uncomfortable. At least to my memory. Your daughter might remember it differently. Maya might remember things differently. But Maya, you, Richard, and Pearl, all three of you have a perspective of the marriage between Valerie and me. You have a perspective between our marriage. You all are old enough to remember situations from our marriage and be able to talk about it. You guys could each fill up at least 15 minutes with examples of things that you've seen in the marriage between Valerie and me. And those things, the reason why they're important is because if I am homeless, and you look at me in a negative light, like, oh, you need to be taking the medication. Oh, Matt must have did this. Oh, Valerie said he did this. I'm your brother-in-law. Or at least I was. Your brother-in-law. And there was love there. Brother-in-law love is, we're not gonna let each other fall. No matter how upset we might be with each other, but we're not gonna let each other fall. Up until now, or up until January, the number one story for me was the dog poop story. The number two story, Rich, or Richard, is the grill story. And part of the grill story is when I came to your place and I saw one of your vehicles was parked in the garage and it had my grill pinned between the car and the garage. When my grill was pinned in there, when we had to move your van in order to get my grill loose. And then I saw how the wheels were. And I saw how you treated my grill. You treated it. Vera did not treat my grill that way because she wasn't able to do anything like that. If it was moved in the garage, it wasn't moved in there by her. It was moved in there by you. And you didn't care nothing about how my grill was treated. You didn't think enough of me to ever, once I picked up that grill, you didn't come over to try to see if you could tinker around with it. You never did anything to make that grill situation right. It's done. It's over with. It was done and over with when I walked into that garage and saw and had to dislodge my grill. But it had been sitting there for all that time. Y'all could have got your own grill over all them years. But my grill had to be used to do some of Vera's cooking. Y'all couldn't just use the last time that I remember bringing the grill over, she had 3 grills going. She could have just used 2 grills and leave mine where it was. But I brought my grill over to your place. I don't think you brought it over there. I think I brought it over there. Like I loaded it up in whatever vehicle I had at the time and brought it over there. And I had to bring it back to my place. That's number one, which is, whatever. Not like you didn't have a van too. Or, when it was over, you could have cleaned that grill, but you didn't. And then you could have put it somewhere where it wasn't pinned between the vehicle and the wall to the point where the vehicle had to be moved. Now, a grill ain't nothing. No big deal. It ain't nothing but a piece of metal in some respects. But the reason why it's the number 2 story, it was the number 2 story, is because just like the dog poop story, it was another example that Richard does not care about me with the same level of care that I cared about him and his wife and his daughter. And again, you can sit down with Valerie and you can sit down with Pearl, and y'all 3 can sit down and discuss ways that I, am messed up or whatever. But that's why I wanted to give you this recording, so that you know from my lips, you hear it with my voice, that the poop story was number 1. The grill story was number 2. But now both of those have moved down the list. Because the number one story is that during the almost 20 years that we've known each other, I feel that I've contributed enough to your life that when you knew that I was homeless, you should have sprung into action on my behalf to help me not be homeless. One of the reasons why, had you helped me by giving me a place to stay during that time, what you would have helped me have, Richard, one thing is you would have helped me have some dignity. And based on the number 2 story and the number 3 story, the dog poop story and the grill story, you don't know what dignity is. Or you don't believe in your own dignity the way that I believe in my own dignity. I believe in my dignity so much that in Valerie, in some of Valerie's complaints about me to me, is that I got ego and pride. My Valerie has coached my son to say, Dad, you act like it's all about you, and try to get all the attention. My son said that to me. So my son's view of my dignity is that I'm trying to get all the attention. Valerie's view of my dignity is that I'm beating my chest and stuff like that. You know, I'm proud, ego. And I don't need their perspective to change because, just like Pearl said, you can't legislate feelings. If Nathan feels that way, that's how he feels. If Valerie feels that way, that's how she feels. I know how I feel. If I have dignity about myself, there are certain things that even if I allow myself to be mistreated, that does not mean that when I raise up and say, this treatment is, when I raise up against what I feel is mistreatment of me, I can't worry about if they think it's me wanting to have attention or me having ego or pride or whatever. I can't worry about that. I have to worry about my dignity. My dignity is important to me. My dignity, believe it or not, and you guys will probably never give me credit for this, but I'm going to tell you something about my dignity, Rich. You have benefited from my dignity for multiple years in your life. The only reason why you're in Toma, Rich, the only reason why you're in Toma is because of my dignity. My dignity is so powerful and my dignity is so important to me that it moved you to Toma. Vera is buried in Toma because my dignity was important to me. My dignity is not important to anybody else. If my dignity was important to Valerie, she would not have filed 2 TROs that made it so that I was homeless. If my dignity was important to Pearl, which, oh my God, that would have been a stretch. For my wife to want to understand and value my dignity, for her to, that is somewhat expected. But for Pearl to understand and value my dignity, even though she's also she's also benefited from my dignity. If it were important to her, then she would have spoken to her daughter on multiple occasions to tell her to calm herself down. But she didn't. Or whatever she had to say, Valerie knew what to say to her to make her shut up. Because Valerie knew what to say to you, Rich, to make you shut up. A man's dignity is very important. When I called Valerie a name, Valerie's dignity rose up in you. I'm not going to let you talk about my sister-in-law like that. Really? If anybody has earned the right to call Valerie anything, I have. So if I call Valerie any name in the book, I've earned that. Just like I do feel Valerie has earned the right to call me any name in the book. Or out the book. I don't care. Valerie has earned the ability to call me anything she wants. I'm not saying I will agree with it. And I'm not saying it's right. But you can't legislate feelings. That's what Pearl say. And for me, I say, you got the freedom to say anything you want to say. That's anybody. You can say anything you want. But there's a phrase, don't write checks that your behind can't cash. Valerie can write a check and call me some names, and I will permit them and not fight against it, because there are things that Valerie has dealt with in our relationship that I'm grateful for, and I'll always be happy for all of this stuff. Matter of fact, this is how I wrote it here. I wrote it like this. I don't view my marriage with Valerie as unsuccessful or as failed. I view it as being retired from Valerie's tribe. I finished the work that I was supposed to do with her, to her, about her, around her. I finished what I was supposed to do. My only circle of concern is Naomi and Nathan. I cannot afford to care about anything going on with Valerie, anything going on with her mother, anything going on with anybody else other than Naomi and Nathan. And I'm not about to be tricked or duped into caring about stuff that is not Naomi and Nathan. According to Valerie, Naomi and Nathan are fine. She can complain about a bunch of stuff and say everything, but if those complaints were real, then 50-50 custody, 50-50 placement. Meaning the children can be with me. But the children haven't been with me. Why? Because according to her, they're fine. So I'm not worried about the children. I love them. I care about them. I want to be with them. They know I want to be with them. This recording, though, is not about that. This recording is, however, related to my children because my children are growing up in a family dynamic, in a tribe environment where Valerie is the ruler and Maya is my children's cousin. And my son and my daughter, their uncle, whether they know it or not, does not care about Matt. You may profess it, Like, when I looked at your, you sent me a messenger message. Your, let me see if I can find it here. Your message, oh, here it is, here it is. Your message on October something something. I love you, man. Hey, thank you for reaching out. Hope everything is going well for you, man. And those words, I consider them empty words. They don't mean nothing. You don't love me. I was taught when I was 22, love is the desire to benefit others at the expense of self. If you go on my website, m3dots.com, and you find the song called Intimacy, it starts off with, what is love? The desire to benefit another at the expense of self. And I went through, in our time, in the nearly 20 years that you and I have been around each other, I've demonstrated love. And I can pinpoint, I can list those things. And I was taught by the Bible not to make a record of wrongs. So all I did was I I uh, I forgave whatever I felt that you had done wrong, and my brain doesn't forget certain things because of the way I'm wired. I still remember lyrics from 20 something years ago when I was 19, 20, 21 that I wrote then. I remember them now because, whatever. But not keeping a record of wrong helps a person not be bitter. And whether you believe it or not, I'm letting you know that I'm not bitter. This is because just like me having dignity, Valerie looks like ego and pride, and to Nathan looks like daddy wants all the attention, right? Just like that, that means that there's three different views. Two of them are more in alignment with each other than my view. Just like there's a different view, two different views at least, of my dignity, there your view might be Matt's bitter. And that's not true. I know when I'm bitter, and this is not bitterness. What I am explaining to you is called accountability. Dignity is one word that you don't understand about me. If you understand me and how much I value my dignity, it ain't even about being disrespectful or respect, because I don't look around for respect. Because respect and dignity, they are two words that are in the same zip code, but it's not the same street. You can have dignity while people are disrespecting you. And I choose to have dignity whether I'm being respected or not. Because respect depends on other people. Dignity depends on me. When I called Valerie a name, and you rose up and said to me, I'm not going to listen to That's her dignity that you rose up for. Your love for me could have made it so that you just heard me out without trying to defend Valerie. Her honor does not need to be defended. I'm her husband. So her honor comes from me anyway. So if I'm venting to you about something, you don't need to defend her. That's my role. If that were something that needed to be done. So I sit in the car or I sit in the van by myself in January, February, when I have loved people around me. I've loved them at my expense. So this is not bitterness, though, because when Pearl and Valerie and me, and later, you know, your daughter Maya, when we were living in Camp Douglas under Nathan's authority, Valerie and me got a lesson in accountability. And Valerie said, and she might deny this, but I was there. I remember. She said words to this effect: we should have done with Richard and Vera what our landlords did to us. And that was a way for her to acknowledge that we mismanaged our landlordship of you and Vera during the time that we were your landlords. And I learned that lesson at that lesson I had it because of the military. Holding people accountable for stuff. I breathe accountability, but I never applied it outside of a military context. That's why that's why I was a doormat, basically, to everybody. People could just walk all over me. Doormat, M-A-T-T, a doormat. Valerie has said that to me before, and she was right when she called me a doormat. That's what I was. I did not ever stand up for myself until over time. It took time. But accountability, when I got a chance to see an example in a non-military context of accountability, a really good one, that helped me out. I took that information, I took that situation back to the Lord, and He helped me craft accountability. And then I look back on my life, and there were scenarios where I did implement accountability, which I do have other stories related to you that demonstrates accountability. Dignity is important to me, and accountability is important to me. Accountability depends on me. I hold myself accountable. Therefore, I end up becoming, in other people's minds, dependable. I don't need somebody to yell at me, tell me to get up and go to work. I don't need somebody to use carrot and stick methods. And what I'm saying is that the words that I'm telling you in this recording is not birthed of bitterness. I verify that to you as being the person who is speaking to you in this recording, if you have gotten this far. I am not bitter with you. These words are given to you so that you can, this is the receipt of our 20-year in-law relationship. This is one receipt, one of the receipts. In 2020 January, you put me in a situation by not springing into action to help me. You made it so that maintaining my dignity would be more tougher than it could have and should have been. I should have been able to be at your place and have my footing so that I could make the next moves with my life. But all you did was get on Valerie's side because you're subservient to her. And you've always been subservient to her. And so this situation was no different. I didn't expect you to help me. I knew you weren't going to. And that's why I did not come over and ask. Or if I did, matter of fact, I think I did come over and ask. And it wasn't, I was not welcome. And that situation, I want you to know, is now the number one story. And everything else falls in line. You did not spring into action because you don't love me. And there are no words that you can say that will ever undo what you did. And if you remember, the last time that we talked, and we talked for maybe an hour or 2 hours or whatever we did, where I shared with you not these words, but other words. And I said, well, let's see how next month goes. And nothing. And the next month. It's one thing to kind of send me a message on Messenger. That's easy. Do that with anybody. But hearty action. Well, Matt, what should I do? Well, Matt, I don't understand. This message is long, kind of boring. You know, I watch movies for 2 and 3 hours. I stare at the TV for hours and hours and hours, but I can't listen to you for such and such a time. Yeah, I know. But the answer to the question, what should I have done? What could I have done? That depends on your level of dignity and your level of accountability to yourself. If I were in your shoes, not only would I have had a place in your place, but it would have happened so fast that you would not have experienced the cold winter for not 1 hour longer than you had to, if the roles were reversed. If you were in the exact situation that I was in, I wouldn't have even, my body would just spring into action. It wouldn't have been a thought. The thought would have been action. I would have been doing it automatically. Same way that I've done it automatically all through our relationship as in-laws. At this point, Richard, I believe that I never want to see you again. I believe that. I don't know if there's a situation or scenario where I ever want to be in your presence ever again. The last time I saw you was at 840 Cranberry, my former residence, the place that I used to live, the place that I used to pay rent at, the place that my children are now prisoners of Valerie's war against me. I saw you there, and I don't have a desire to, I'm not a violent person at all, regardless of anything that anybody would have to say. I am definitely not a violent person. I'm a capable person, but not a violent person. But if you had not gone there and I didn't see you, I'd still be sending you this message, but I would not have missed not seeing you. Like, I don't, you know, I have no desire to ever see you again. I believe it right now. You put your daughter, Maya, in a tough position because her loyalty to Valerie will always be higher than any loyalty to me. And you had the opportunity to demonstrate. You could have demonstrated what family is to your daughter. Your daughter may or may not, but let's go down the path that she may get married to someone. And let's say she's in the situation where she has been put out on the street by an unfair court system. And the people that she helped for years, they are not compelled to make sure she has a place to sleep. And I didn't think about this angle until just now. But I'm old enough now to have experienced God's irony. I've experienced it in my own life where I spoke certain things about a certain person or a certain couple's situation, and I end up living in that exact same situation. And repenting to the Lord, saying, oh my God, Lord, now I understand. The thing that I thought and screamed out loud, this is what that people should do. I was so wrong. I was so wrong. Lord, thank you for letting me experience this so that I now know how to righteously judge a situation. And Richard, you don't have righteous judgment as far as my opinion. Maybe you do. And if you send me a recording that, goes into all that stuff, I will definitely listen. I would love to hear your thoughts on whatever, because I feel that your brain is not capable of handling the various concepts that I'm talking about, like dignity and accountability. Maybe I'm wrong, but when I say this, during the almost 20 years that we've known each other, I feel that I've contributed enough to your life that when you knew that I was homeless, you should have sprung into action on my behalf to help me not be homeless. If I say that to you, I don't think that you have words that would say to me that, Matt, if I would have sprung into action to help you when you were homeless, then da 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 da, and make it the argument in a way that doesn't sound like BS. Because all you have to do, Rich, is put your daughter in my shoes. The same way that my father watched me be homeless. You're a father, and my father is a father, and you know my father. Or at least you know of him because you've interacted with him. But my father is so upset about this situation because that's not what you do when you're family. But you don't, that you, now this is not something that came from my father in terms of an idea. I've seen, my father's been homeless before. And during my marriage, I tried to get my father to be able to live in the basement while I was in California. Valerie worked against that. And that red flag right there, when I was in California, and Valerie and Lysandra worked against me making it so that my father could live in my place so that he wasn't homeless. I never forgot that about Valerie. And she will never, as far as I'm concerned, Valerie will never, ever, ever have a level of accountability that fully grasps how many things that she has done that demonstrates that she was not worth all the dignity that she got to benefit from. Valerie has never been worth my dignity. She's never been worth it. Ask Valerie how many Thanksgivings has she been at my family's place, at my family's Thanksgiving. Ask her how many. But that be challenging. You actually, Rich, you'd actually be too afraid to ask her that, because you know that would make her mad. And unfortunately, Rich, you are a scaredy cat person. You may got some boldness where you can say some stuff, something, whatever, But when it really comes down to it, your boldness, it wasn't there. Because you could have sprung into action and made sure that I wasn't homeless. So you ain't got no boldness. You fell right in line with your master, Valerie. And Maya watched that. And so just understand, the reason why I'm pointing this out to you is because Maya is still young enough to where she can be given some level of explanation of by you, her father, so that she can hear your words and hear you tell her about how you treated me and how it was wrong. Because here's the thing, your daughter saw me have dignity. She's never seen me without dignity. Now, I would love to hear what Maya's perspective and story is. Have her share her perspective and story with Valerie in the room, and then have her share her perspective and story with none of y'all in the room, and be truthful. You get two separate stories. Why? Because Valerie is a dominating presence to y'all. None of y'all stand up to her. None of y'all. Richard, you told me this before. You said to me words that expressed this point. Valerie is a spoiled brat. You said that because you've been knowing her ever since she was in her teenage years. If I know the story correctly, her father died when she was 14, and you know, Vera is, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years older than Valerie, and she met you in Minnesota somewhere, whether it was college or wherever, but y'all met, and then y'all got married and came, and y'all were on one side of the building and they were on the other side, and y'all had extension cords, going on the out, through the house, through the balcony, so that the Valerie Pearl side of the box y'all lived in could power the refrigerator and oven or whatever on y'all side of the box that y'all was living in when I met you guys. And you were talking about that time period, or I was talking to you about it, and you said, in your own words, Valerie is a spoiled brat. I'm paraphrasing, but I got the point. I comprehend. And ask Maya. Like I said, Maya She called me, or I think she called somehow. And I was blessed. I love Maya. That's my niece. She is somebody that I do want to see at least one time before I'm no longer accessible to anybody. Because I have a present for her. Because I want her to know that Maya taught me numerous things by being in my home in Camp Douglas and being in my home in Toma. And I say my home because I'm the head of my family. And for the rest of life, here's the thing. This is a concept, Rich, that I believe, and there is nothing that anybody's belief system will ever change. When Valerie and me got married, I became the head of her. And until Valerie dies, I will always be her head. I will always be the authority position over her. And as much as she tried to get me arrested, allow me to get sick, or try to, because she had they had my neck gaiter, so that I caught a bad cold during that time period. I had to go 3 times to the hospital for that between January and February. It finally started to clear up, I believe, in March, or late February, early March. Nothing that Valerie can do will ever override my authority. And that's the reason why Valerie's in this situation where she needs me and my help. Matt, you need to be paying money. You need to be paying money. You need to be paying money. If she wasn't under my authority, she wouldn't be asking me and needing money. She wouldn't be trying to work it out where Matt can't have the children and Matt got to give me money. Matt got to do this. Matt got to do that. She wouldn't be holding the children hostage. She's under my authority. And if I were to say, no, I'm saying that Valerie will always be under my authority for as long as she lives. She'll always be under my authority. If Valerie believed differently, then she wouldn't have any problem with me having the children for several days. She wouldn't have any problem. Why? Because her insecurities and her fears and her need to dominate me is much greater than anybody will ever know. You don't try to dominate something that you're already dominating. And see, anything that I do regarding Valerie is accountability. Anything Valerie does towards me is actually called rebellion. And I know that sounds jacked up, but let me put it in other terms. Can a black man be racist against a white man in a white supremacist system? If white supremacy is the dominant law of the land, dominant religion, dominant everything, white supremacy, whites are better than blacks. Whites will always rule over blacks. If that system is in place, can a black man ever dominate a white man? Can a black man ever rule over a white man in a system where blacks do not rule over white men? Anything the white man does is accountability. Anything the black person does against the white person is rebellion. That's the reason why, and I'll end the tangent with this statement, that's the reason why when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling to say, please, we need cops to stop using excessive force against black people, Donald Trump didn't say, yeah, that is kind of messed up. He said, you need to stop kneeling against the flag. If black people truly had power over the white people, then Colin Kaepernick wouldn't have to kneel in the first place. But because white people have rule over blacks, it just is. They rule. White people rule over blacks. They just do. I don't want it that way. And there are some white people who don't want it that way. But that just is what it is. Therefore, whatever whites do to blacks, it's not wrong. It's right. Because if it was wrong, then other whites would stop it and the system would be made fair. But there are no whites that are more powerful than the whites that do the wrong stuff. And I don't bow to this system. I can't bow to this system because I know deep in my heart that it's not fair. But I have to bow to this system. I don't want to bow, and I don't bow. So anytime that I'm bowing, it's because I'm forced to bow. That's accountability. This is the way the system is. You will bow. When they beat me up on the 4th of July, of all days, VA cops beat up a soldier on the 4th of July. The judge says, you need to not dwell in the past. Valerie says, that was because of your behavior. Basically, from both the judge's and Valerie's perspective, what happened to me, in my gut and my heart, I know it was wrong. But I was wrong. 5 police officers on the 4th of July and 7 police officers on the 8th of July, they can beat me up. It's not bad. It's okay. It is okay. So, I've got another example, and I might as well stay on this example, about accountability versus rebellion. And you know, before I move to the other example, the example of the 5 cops beating me up and the 7 cops beating me up, and if you look across America, all these black people that are marching and all the white people, everybody that's marching with them, none of them are more powerful than the people who did the stuff that's wrong. Because if they were more powerful than them, then the wrong stuff wouldn't have happened that we perceive as wrong. 200 years ago, there were no black people marching against police brutality. 200 years later, we're marching for, or they are marching for it. I'm not marching for it. I want it to happen. I'm going to do what I feel I can do to try to correct it. But the bottom line, the first thing you got to do is you got to admit what it is. And I can't. The truth of the situation is that white people rule. And all across America, everybody to some degree is touched by the idea that police go overboard, use excessive force. But when you drive up and down Toma, you do see, we back the blue. What does that mean? That's code for the way it is right now is the right way. So that's the reality. And in the same way, I am the head of my family. Valerie has positioned herself as my enemy. I have never called her enemy. She called me enemy. Just like the black people marching all over say that the cops are wrong for using excessive force. Are the cops wrong, or are the black people that's marching against them wrong? Who's right? It ain't about who's right and wrong. The people who are always right are the people who are in authority. And so it's incumbent upon the authority to be fair, not on the people to be fair. As if you remember the Breonna Taylor case, if you looked at that at all, what you would find is that all the way through the system, things that black people would see as unfair, they happened. And guess what they did? They put a black guy as the attorney general to let him be the face of it. A juror just spoke out recently to say, they lied to us, or whatever he said. But here's the thing. You see, he had to hide his face because the authority makes the rules, not the people under authority. Valerie did not want to submit to my authority. And so what she did is she went to a judge, a family court commissioner, and other agencies to put me under some level of pressure so that she can sit back and enjoy not being under my authority. But still, no matter what happens to me, no matter what happens, when I'm homeless, she's still under my authority. And everything that she's done that I consider wrong, my judgment about it is correct in my eyes Why? And you know what? My eyes are the only things that matters to me. Because I've learned now that if an unjust system, ask Valerie about this. Did the judge and the family court commissioner, did they say it was okay for Matt to sleep in the car and give you child support, Valerie? If you ask her that, she's going to say a whole bunch of stuff. But the bottom line is yes. And Valerie, who has not been receiving child support from me, she sent me an email giving me a calculation of how much she feels she's owed. She is functioning under their authority. And when her actions and her words did not get fulfilled, where she's getting child support from me, now, she's calling me all these names, which is fine. But she's trying to get something from me using a system that is unfair in my perspective. See, here's the thing. The system, when we got married, when me and Valerie got married, we didn't just get married in America. America is only one element of who's got authority over me. We got married under God. God has authority. So God trumps the judge. God trumps the family court commissioner. So if Valerie wants to go above my authority, perceivably, to anybody, she should go to God. And unfortunately, anytime Valerie goes to God regarding me, God is going to send her back to me, which is why she goes to the judge, because she has no desire to submit to authority. But here's the reality. My dignity is so powerful that it calls for her whole family to be in Toma. My dignity is so powerful that you, Richard, your life is now in Toma. Before you moved to Toma, had you ever been to Toma? I've been coming to Toma since before I met you. I've been coming to Toma since 1998. Fort McCoy, I've been coming to Fort McCoy since I was 1998, so I have to go through Toma. And you can call it, or Valerie can say, oh, that's his military service. But yeah, that's my military service. But my dignity, that's more important than any job that I got, any affiliation I got, my dignity. So I want you to know that you are sitting in a home that you wouldn't be in had it not been for my dignity. That's how powerful I am and how powerful my dignity is. And you can call it anything you want, but I want you to try. Check this out, Rich. Try this. Try to move somewhere else on your own dignity. You probably won't be able to do it. You probably might stay in Toma for the rest of your life. And I want you to know the reason why you're in Toma is because of my dignity. Can you, Richard, do something with your dignity? I feel you can't. Valerie will always be under my authority, and she doesn't like it. She would not be asking me for money. She would not be holding the children as leverage for money if she wasn't under my authority. She wouldn't even need money from me if she wasn't under my authority. Evidence that she needs my authority, that she needs me, evidence that my authority governs her, is how she's behaving. And what's funny is that I'm her authority and she's your authority. That's what trips me out. You're not, Rich, you have never functioned as your own authority. Everything, your decision to move to Toma wasn't your decision. Valerie's decision to move to Toma, she may have come up with it, we're going to move to Toma, but it was based on me working at Fort McCoy. She could have said, we're going to stay in Chicago, and when you get done with your job at Fort McCoy, let's come back to Chicago. We're going to move to Dakotas, and when you're done with your job at Fort McCoy, we move to Dakotas. She could have done that. But she didn't. Why? Because it's all my authority. Another example that I wanted to give, I'm not going to give it now because I want to try to wrap it up here if I can. One of the bullet points. I became Valerie's father, whether she know it or not. This means that your mother lived with us the entire marriage. Valerie's mother lived with Valerie and me for the entire marriage. And that may not mean anything to anybody else. And Valerie can only twist it because she's under my authority to make it sound different than I'm about to say it. Here's the statement. That Valerie raised by her mother, she had a father for part of the time of her life. I don't remember how many years. I think it was 14. But her father was in her life, and whatever flaws he had and whatever good points he had, she had a father. And that's a good thing. But by the time I came along, I had the same amount of fathering as Valerie had of being mothered. And both of us being together made it so that there were the design was that Valerie and me would get together, and the results of Valerie's mothering and the results of my fathering would enable us to be able to parent Naomi and Nathan in a way that's perfect for whatever it is that God's assignment for Nathan and Naomi are. But here's what ended up happening. My authority as the head of the household is on the same level, maybe probably one rung higher than the authority of the mama. Meaning that in that household, I wasn't married to Valerie. I was married to Valerie's mother, but I was able to have sex with her daughter and have children with her daughter. And I didn't want to be married to Valerie's mother. And it sounds ridiculous. It sounds twisted. Because it is. The mama should not have lived with us for the whole marriage. But she did. And the mama's not wrong. And Valerie's not wrong for that. Nobody's wrong for that configuration being the way it is. And I'm not saying that I put a ring on Valerie's mama's finger and married her. But when I said I got a job assignment over here and I want to be with my family, I didn't expect personally that Valerie and the children would also be accompanied by Olivia and Valerie's mama. What am I running? Why is my household never me, Valerie, and the babies? Why is it always other people in the house? Now that's within me. I deal with it. And I've dealt with it. And Valerie will never regret it. And that's the reason why Valerie will never fully understand the magnitude of she'll never fully understand things that I have to say. She'll never fully understand it. Because she will not let herself understand it. And here's how that's related to you. Because your daughter is still young enough to where somebody could explain what happened. If you're going to leave it to Valerie or Pearl to explain the things that your daughter has seen in Valerie and my marriage, if you're going to leave it to nobody to know, if she's going to have the perspective that is underdeveloped and you not teach her what the right way is or teach her a better way, then your daughter may experience things that you don't want her to experience, but it'll be because you're sowing what has been you're reaping what you've sown. And this is not me saying something bad. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying something bad. What I'm saying is truthful. There's a lot of stuff that I could share, and I will share them if it's something that I know would be a blessing and a benefit. And that's part of the reason why I want to spend some time with Maya, so that I could let her know from my mouth Maya, here are the things that happened. The facts. Part 2. Maya, tell me from your perspective what happened. The facts. Part 3. Maya, tell me how you felt about all those things. Part 4. Maya, here's how I feel about all those things. Part 5. Maya, let's write something that will help us take everything that you've seen in Valerie and my marriage and put it make something constructive so that you have this, Maya. And when you go, and if you ever get married, and if you ever have children, here are some bullet points that you sat with me and developed. I don't think anybody in the family is equipped mentally to do what I just said. And I don't think that you, Richard, would grant me that opportunity because you've got insecurities. And of course, Valerie has insecurities. And so I just have to let it be. And my point is that if I never see the family again, I'm fine with that. But my daughter and my son, they are the most important two beings on this earth to me. And you, Richard, you may not know the facts, the details, but you can always interact with me to get the facts and the details. And everything that I've told you since January, since we talked those couple of times, even after you were not compelled to help me when I was homeless. The wrongdoing by Valerie is still happening, and you don't even care. And so when Nathan and Naomi, when they get older and they really understand what has happened, because I'm keeping track of everything. My daughter and my son, they will know. They will know what happened. They will know that you had the opportunity to make me not homeless, and you chose to let their father stay living in the van, in the cold, while Nathan held onto my neck gaiter because he missed me. And you, Richard, could have let me be in your home, which would have gave me an opportunity to cry. It would have gave me an opportunity to stand up and have dignity and go to work every day and deal with that stuff. But I had to sleep in the car after everything that I've done for that family. So, am I messed up in the head? Apparently so. Because for me to even feel the way I feel, to talk for 2 hours about these feelings, I must be messed up in the head, because what I'm saying must be wrong. It must be. It's probably not even worth listening to it, because I'm wrong. And the way that Valerie has treated me is the way that I'm supposed to be treated. she's right. Because you sat by and you agree with her. Your actions demonstrate you agree with her. And that's okay. I've accepted it. But me being Valerie's father figure, that part, it really makes me angry. I'm very upset about that. Because I didn't get married to Valerie to make it so that, you know, the whole family moves around me. I wasn't planting myself in Toma. Just because it's better than Chicago doesn't mean that we couldn't been where that's where my home is. My family is down there in Chicago. My family can't just pick up and move like y'all raggedy non-root having family can. Y'all was living in a box on the west side of Chicago. I get a job. I got a job in Fort McCoy. Why does the whole family gotta move to Fort McCoy? We had a home. I had a home. And that's where I wanted to be at. Cermak. I didn't want to be at Fort McCoy. I didn't want my children to be at those schools, at the Toma area Montessori school. I didn't want that. But that's what Valerie wanted. And so we did it. Because I was demonstrating love. Benefiting her. Benefiting her mama. Benefiting her brother-in-law. At the expense of myself. That's love. And how does my love get repaid? Homeless. So my website is m3dots.com. And if you went onto my website and listened to episodes of my shows, Rich, listen to my music, not to enjoy it, but to understand me, you would understand why I feel the way I feel. But I don't expect that you will. I expect the same way that you treated me in January and February, the same way that you treated me when it came to your dog, the same way that you treated me when it came to my grill. That you don't love me. So don't say it anymore. Just be. Be yourself. Be truthful with yourself. And be happy that you are the way you are. Because if you're like me, you place your dignity in places where they don't deserve your dignity. You have demonstrated, Rich, that you never deserved my dignity. You never deserved my level of love. Neither did Pearl, and neither did Valerie. And so Maya, in my opinion, has the greatest chance of not being like you and like Valerie and like Pearl. She's got the greatest chance of not being like y'all three. But my assumption is that you will do nothing to make sure that she is not like you guys. Because you don't understand the significance of it. But I will tell you this. Go talk to Pearl separate from Valerie. Just talk to Pearl by herself. And sit with her for an hour. And let yourself have the conversation with Pearl about me. And you don't have to record it. I would recommend that you recorded it. Because Maya would benefit if she had a man like me when she got married. If she found a person, man or woman or whatever she's doing, because I'm not into that. I'm not into I don't know, and I don't care. I care about her, but life choices, that's on her, what she's doing. So I don't have a judgment, and I don't even know. But whoever she's with, if she was with a person that loved her the way that I loved, which is the desire to benefit others at the expense of myself, if that's the type of person that you want for your daughter, you don't want your daughter to be in a scenario where she's with someone who does not love her according to that definition, the desire to benefit her at the expense of himself. And hopefully you would train Maya to reciprocate that love, not just use it and abuse it and then let that person be homeless at the end of it. And that's why I know my marriage did not fail. My marriage did not fail. I retired from it. Because if Valerie wanted our marriage to succeed, then when in 2010 and 11, that is when the change was designed to be made. So though that trip that you came out to California, that did come out of my pocket, that trip was designed to make her happy, make Valerie happy, but she should have been happy within our marriage at that time, but she wasn't. And my headship my headship required me to study Valerie in ways that she will not understand all the ways that I've studied her. She does not understand how much I understand her. She doesn't even understand. She doesn't understand it. And Valerie understands me very well, but she doesn't understand my authority. And that's where she's always going to make the problem. That's where she's always going to fail. Is if she doesn't understand my authority, that the only person that's going to turn my heart is going to God. And I've already talked to God about this whole situation. And he's going to always send her back to me in some form or fashion. And this, we're talking about for the rest of life. For the rest of Valerie's life, she's under my authority. And whoever's authority Maya ends up being under, hopefully it's a person that loves with the same level of love that I've loved. And Rich, you may not ever agree with anything that I've said in this recording. And if you listen to the whole thing, I give you kudos. I give you kudos for listening to me the last time when we talked on the phone. And you heard me out, and I appreciate that. I do. And for this, I do appreciate if you listen to the whole thing. Kudos. But for your daughter's sake, not for your sake, and not for Valerie's sake, and not for your mother's sake, for your daughter's sake, I would love for us to talk so that I could make sure she understands parts of my story and parts of the story between Valerie and me. She understands it with a better context than she has. And if it never happens, I'm not going to be tripping. Because God's going to get the information to her. I'm just trying to give it to her based on the way I know her. But God will get it to her. Believe me. And that's why, sit down with Pearl. Let Valerie be gone. And I'm not saying that Pearl's going to speak up for me. Pearl's going to say what she's going to say. But if you got any type of discernment, you're going to hear how good of a man I was to her daughter. Just like you were a good man to Vera. That's a bullet point, like I said, in a different context. You taught me, Rich, I got a chance to see up close and personal, as much as I could. I got a chance to see you care and love Vera all the way to the end. I admire you for that. I really do. And I would hope that Maya doesn't have to have a man that's going to bury her sooner than her life expectancy. Hopefully, Maya could be as great of a woman as Vera is and was. Because in my mind, the hierarchy goes, Vera was the greatest, Pearl is the second greatest, and Valerie is the worst out of the three. That's my hierarchy. And if there's any example of woman that Maya should be like, it should be like her mother. But ain't it a trip that the ones who are the best example, their influence is somehow shortened? Vera's gone, and Valerie put a TRO in 2 times to make sure that I'm not around. Why? Why? Because the pressure is on to make Maya turn out like Valerie. That's what the pressure is. Didn't Valerie sit you and your girlfriend down to say something about y'all not being together? Because of some skin color stuff or whatever? I know what the lady told me. Matter of fact, I think you told me the same thing in a different way. So I might have the story wrong, but I'm basing it on what you said and what she said, because I saw her at Walmart. I knew her from around before y'all got together, and I was happy for y'all that y'all got together. Now, y'all not working out, that's up to y'all. But I was happy that, listen, Rich, let me tell you something. You, based on my memory, when I had a discussion with Vera, and I might go into much, there's a lot of stuff that Vera and me talked about. But I admired Vera because of something that she told me. Because she knew that a man needs to have sex sometimes. And she was in a place where she couldn't give you the level of sexual attention that you might have needed. And she was not like Valerie in that her self-esteem was not so low that pornography made her lose her dignity. Now, I could be wrong. All I know is when I had my discussion with Vera, she shared some stuff with me in that area that made me admire her and help put my marriage in perspective when it came to sex. So I was happy when you got a chance. When I saw that you had a lady, man, I was so proud of you at that time. I was so happy for you. And I'm pretty sure that Vera was happy for you too. But Valerie wasn't. The fourth greatest story in the Richard chronicles of my life was the time that you and Vera had to, against medical advice, obey Valerie. I saw that. I said, whoa, ouch. Valerie is so powerful that against medical advice, and between you and Vera, both of y'all said something like, if the church people care about me, they could come to the hospital. But they didn't care. The church people didn't care about Vera. Ain't that a trip? Valerie brought Vera to a church full of people that don't care about her. Didn't care about her at all. Not at all. Do you know that Valerie decided to end her relationship with that church? Either before or right after Vera's funeral. She was upset. She was upset. And was she right? Was she wrong? That's a different discussion. But I will tell you this. Whichever one of you said, if the church people care for me, they would have just came to the hospital. That is a profound statement. And if one of y'all said that to Valerie, whoever said that to Valerie, if neither of you said that to Valerie, that shows you guys lack courage. Both you and Vera lack courage. But if you told this to Valerie and Valerie still was so headstrong, and her authority over you guys was so strong that you guys would, against medical advice, out the hospital. Whoa. And that's woman, Valerie, that is the auntie figure, the auntie of your daughter. And I'm not saying anybody should hold a grudge with Valerie about that. But I do remember how Maya was feeling. She says she can't wait until her dad comes home and makes it so that she can be with her dad. And here's what I did. I did not step in and act like I'm your dad now. No. I took her to school. I cared about her. And I always reminded her it's coming. But she would vent to me about Valerie, because she was dealing with Valerie issues too. And she was happy when it was over. She was happy, man. She was happy. Just like I'm happy right now. I am so happy to not be in the house with that woman. I'm so happy. My life is so much better. I can sit down and breathe. I can sit down and think. And I had the moment to be able to put this thing together. Because these things that I'm telling you needed to be said. Whether you hear them or not, I needed to put them into a place where it could be heard by you. If you never listen to it, Rich, that's fine. And if you decide not to listen to it, these words are not gonna just sit amiss. Someone will hear these words. Someone. If it's not you. But the same way that I cared about your daughter, and did the things I could to make it so that she was taken care of. And I did things to make sure that you were able to be positioned back in your place. Back, however, whatever the situation was. Why? Because I loved. And I don't mind if you don't agree. Because I know what I did. And you know what I did deep down. And Pearl, like I said, talk to Pearl. And you'll be able to discern, not based on what she said, because she could talk about me like a dog if she wants to. But she wouldn't be in Toma. If I were not working in Fort McCoy. I get a job and the whole family gets uprooted. How flimsy was you guys' foundation that you can just uproot and come to a temporary place that was temporary? This was not supposed to be my home, Toma. But such as it is. But again, my children are the most important thing to me. And so, however long this scenario lasts where I don't have my children, and all I'm asking for is 50-50 custody, 50-50 placement. And if things work out so that I have my children, 100%, Valerie can always see the children. If I got the children 100%, Valerie always be able to see the children. And I don't know if there's a way. I don't even know if there's if there. I would never do to Valerie what she's done to me. Never, never. But I know one thing, that if I have say over my day-to-day of my children, they will never see you again, Rich. And I will make sure that they know how I feel. Ain't no coming by to visit. Ain't no Christmases, birthdays. Now, if the children want to, I'm not going to stop them. And if they urge me, hey, they want to see Uncle Rich, that's fine. But if it's up to me, I don't never want to see you again. I don't ever want to see Pearl again. Because if Pearl don't know how to correct her daughter, and it's okay for it to be like this, I don't want to see none of y'all again. But, I'm the one that's wrong. So, this situation is perfect the way it is, right? Anyway, I will, I'm going to go enjoy my morning. And I pray that all is well with you. So, goodbye, Rich.